etc. That if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Has worshiping God protected Christianity from corruption? When you think of a modern Christian, especially an American and particularly an evangelical, do you imagine someone who is humble, gentle, and patient? Do you imagine a selfless person? Do you imagine someone who does not care about identity politics? Do you imagine someone who cannot be manipulated by the brash, egotistical materialism of narcissistic billionaires, millionaires, politicians, and partisan pundits? Do you imagine someone who does not care about their belongings? Do you imagine someone who would not try to protect their belongings from someone demanding it of them, let alone give them more than what they demanded? Do you imagine someone who would turn the other cheek? Do you imagine someone who would be willing to sell everything they own and give it all to the poor? Do you imagine someone who welcomes foreigners as if they were native-born citizens? Do you imagine someone who supports welfare? Do you imagine someone who considers prayer a private matter and would neither do it in public nor try to get anyone else to do it in public either? Do you imagine someone who loves their enemies and is kind to them? Do you imagine someone who is angered about the commodification of their religion? And finally, do you imagine someone who is completely immune to the whims of culture, who can't be easily distracted, or who is not easily offended? We all know the truth. We all know the answers to these questions, but when you distill religion down to I worship this and you worship that, basically team sports, the Christians can trick themselves into thinking that their belief in God acts as a bulwark against worshiping things that are not God, things that are of the world. Is that what we see in reality, though? No, of course not. Christians today tend to be the most un-Christ-like people, and when even they cannot deny that Christians are behaving badly, they will tell you that they're only human and that, of course, they will fall short.